Today, we are focusing on all things homespun. Hello my darling friends, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to have you all here. I am really looking forward to hanging out. We are going to spend some time in the studio today working on some really fun homespun Christmas projects. I have 5 designs for y'all. I think you're really going to enjoy these. So without further ado, let's get started with project number 1.
We are going to start off our very first project today with a very fun, whimsical Christmas stocking. So we will need this pattern. I will have it available for y'all as a free download. When you cut this pattern out, you do want to make sure that you cut on the very outside of the thick lines. So here I have the pattern all cut out for y'all, and we are just going to piece it together. When you download this pattern, it will be on 3 pieces of paper. So we'll go ahead and just cut them all out and then piece them together. And I'm just using some tape to do this. So now that we have our pattern all pieced together, we can go ahead and lay it out on our fabric. And one thing to really pay close attention to, if you have fabric that goes a specific direction, like it's directional, you want to make sure that you lay your pattern piece on your fabric accordingly, so that when you piece it together, your pattern is right sides up. I hope that makes sense for y'all. So I'm using some knit fabric here that is definitely directional. So just lay your pattern piece out accordingly. Then I do pin my pattern piece to the fabric really well so it doesn't slide around when I'm cutting it. And then we'll just cut it out. And here we have them cut out. You do want to make sure that you cut 2 pieces for your outer stocking and 2 pieces for the lining. And make sure that when you pin them together, you have right sides together. On the lining, you want to leave a small section opened on the edge, and it kind of is important to leave it open on the edge. If you leave it open on the round part of the lining, it makes it very difficult to turn. So then we will take each of these pieces to the sewing machine and sew them all around the sides, leaving the top open. One thing I really like to do after I've sewn my pieces together is just run my hand around all of the edges just to make sure that everything has been sewn together and there's no gaps or holes and that we didn't miss any of our seams. So now I will go ahead and sew the lining, and remember to leave about a 3 to 4 inch opening on the edge of your stocking so that we can turn all of our pieces. We're also going to add our hanger at this point before sewing your lining together. So to find the placement on my stocking, I fold my lining down where my cuff is going to be, kind of mark it with my finger, and then we're going to go ahead and put our loop in. And you can use anything to create your loop. You can use fabric, ribbon, whatever. I'm just using a piece of jute. You do want to fold your ribbon in half and make sure the curved part of your hanger is facing inside the stocking. And then we just take it to the sewing machine and sew all of those pieces together, and then go ahead and turn your lining piece, the lining piece only, right sides out, and get everything, all the corners and the edges and the round pieces poked out properly. So when you lay it out, it should look like this, and you can see how our loop is positioned correctly for when we turn down our cuff. Okay, so now we are going to take our lining piece that has been turned right sides out. We're going to tuck it into our outer piece of our stocking with this, and the outer piece is wrong sides in, if that makes sense. You want to leave it inside out. so that when you tuck the lining into your stocking, the right sides come together. And this will all start to make sense to you as we sew it and get it turned. And this part can be a little fiddly, so what I like to do is just tuck it in and then grab the toe and pull that outer piece up. So now we have everything tucked in to place, and I'm going to go ahead and pin the whole top edge of our stockings because we're going to go ahead and sew this part closed. And this is why you want to make sure that you leave an opening in that lining on the edge, because otherwise you won't be able to turn this properly. So here I have taken the stocking back to the sewing machine, and we're just going to sew that top edge closed. We're going to sew our two pieces together. So we're sewing the outer part of our stocking and the lining together. And when I do this, I usually tuck it. You can kind of see how I'm sewing it here. If you have one of the arms on your sewing machine, you can do it that way, and it does make it a little easier, but I don't. So I just sew. You saw how I sewed it together. So I just went around the inside. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and pull all of our pieces out, and this is what it's going to look like. You kind of look like you've got, it looks a little wonky at this point, but bear with me because it's all going to come together. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that all of our pieces are laid flat, and then we'll go ahead and start turning everything right sides out, and we're going to use that opening in our lining to do this step. So you turn the lining part right sides out first, and then you kind of start pulling the outer part of the stocking through that opening in the lining to get it right sides out. And then I will go ahead and just make sure all of our corners are properly poked out and that everything lays nice and flat. So you can see here how I have everything laid out. Everything is turned right sides out now. So we can, at this point, we can go ahead and close that opening in our stocking. So I will just clip that together and then take it to my sewing machine to close that opening. Now that the opening in our stocking lining has been closed, we can go ahead and tuck that lining into the outer piece. So you can see here how I'm just tucking it all in, and I just keep working it and tucking and pushing until everything starts to line up, and it will. At first, the lining will feel a little bit bunched up in there, but as you fiddle with it a little bit, it all starts to lay flat. And once you get all that situated, then you can go ahead and turn down your cuff. And if you placed that loop in there correctly, this is what it should look like. And then I kind of just fiddle with it to make sure that, everything is looking nice and neat and tidy and clean. And then that kind of just finishes off these stockings, and I think they turned out so darling, y'all. What do you think of these? For our second project today, we are going to do something just so fun and playful. We're going to make some peppermint candies. So we're going to do some peppermint rounds and some peppermint sticks. So we will need some of these wood rounds, some dowels, some scrap fabrics of choice, and some jute or ribbon, just anything that you would like to use to tie the ends. And then of course we'll need some scissors and our hot glue or fabric glue to do this. So we'll go ahead and start this project by gluing 3 of these little wood rounds together. And I found these wood rounds on Amazon, and I will have them linked in the description box for y'all. So I felt like 3 was the perfect size to make that nice, perfect peppermint candy. So I glue these together, and then once they're all glued together, we're going to go ahead and wrap them in our wrapper. So I just cut some scrap fabric here, and I think this was like 4 inches long by like 5 inches wide. But you just wrap it, just cut your fabric to whatever size will fit nicely over your little faux candy piece. So I'm going to put a little hot glue on this, fold that over sort of to the center of our wood round there, and then I come in and fold the other section over the top of that until and I do pull it really tight because I want it really tightly wrapped. Now that we have our candy wrapped, we can go ahead and tie our end pieces. And I like the cuteness of this, so I definitely leave quite a bit of fabric at the ends, so it just kind of makes that cute little bunched up wrapped look, sort of like we twisted the wrapper. So I tie it really, really, really tight and then snip off all of the extra tail ends, and we'll just do this to both sides. And then just like that, y'all, we have created some really darling little peppermint candy rounds. And I did feel like this was just a smidge bit long, so I did cut off a little bit of the excess fabric. Look at these, you guys. Aren't these so cute? Oh my gosh, y'all. I just love these so much. All right. I did go ahead and make a whole bunch of those peppermint rounds, and now we can move on to making some peppermint sticks. And this is what they're going to look like all finished. So to do this, I start by putting a little bit of hot glue over the top of the dowel, and then I will kind of just roll the dowel into the fabric. So I'll turn it upside down, place the glue side down on the fabric, and then just kind of start rolling until it's really tight. Then when I come to the edge, I trim off any excess fabric, and then we will glue that down. And again, I try to wrap these very, very tight. Now that we have our peppermint sticks tightly wrapped, we can go ahead and snip off any fabric, any excess fabric that is on the ends. And I do snip that fabric off pretty close because we want these to be wrapped really nice and tight. So I just put some glue in there, and then I kind of just push those ends in, sort of like I'm wrapping a present. And if you get a little too much fabric at the ends, they won't wrap as close and it won't look as neat. It'll kind of have a little bit of a bulkiness. So make sure you do cut those kind of close to the ends. Cut that excess fabric off. Then we're going to go ahead and make some stacks here with these. So I've made 6 peppermint sticks, and I'm going to stack 3 together, and then I'm just going to tie them very, very tightly together. You could also glue these together if you didn't want them moving around, but I found if I tied it tight, they stayed in place okay. And then we'll come in and do some fun embellishing to these to just kind of give them that fun, finished Christmas whimsy. So now we're going to go ahead and start embellishing our peppermint sticks, and I've created some fun little tags that you can attach to your peppermint sticks, and I will have these available for y'all as a free download, and you'll be able to find that. The link for that will be in the description box. So I'm going to take some of this cute little candy cane ribbon. I think I found this at Walmart. I've had it for a while. I do believe I bought it last year, but I think you can still get it this year. So anyway, I'm going to tie it into a bow and then glue that to the end of our tag. And then I come in with my paintbrush with just a teeny tiny bit of, so I'm using a very dry brush here with just a teeny tiny bit of antiquing wax on this. And I'm just going to brush it over the edges just to kind of give this tag a little bit of an aged look. Then I'm going to go ahead and stain these cute little gingerbread fellas that I have. I found these last year at Dollar Tree, but I'm pretty sure I saw them again this year. So I stained our little gingerbreads, and then I'm going to string a bell onto the end of this, and I'm just using a cute little rusty safety pin to do that, and I will have these linked in the description box for y'all. So I pin that on, and then I'm going to just dab a tiny bit of hot glue onto the back of our tag and just glue that right onto our peppermint candy. And then to finish it off, I will glue our little gingerbread guy right onto the tag as well. Oh goodness, y'all, I just think these are so sweet. This was a really fun project to make, and these are really easy too. This was one of those projects that worked up really quickly, and this would be fun to do with your kids or your grandkids, I think. I think they would enjoy working on this project. So here we have all of our candy. What do y'all think? I love them. I think they are a lot of fun. moving on to project number 3, we are going to create a really cute little cookie bag. And I will have the whole pattern for this available for y'all. All of the patterns from today will be in just a big pattern bundle, and the link for that will be in the description box. So you will be able to download all of the patterns from today. And then I just created this iron-on transfer on my cutter, and I had some issues in the weeding, so part of my word north got a little cut off, so I ended up having to make 2 of those. So hopefully that won't happen with you. Sometimes, weeding it's just one of those things, right? We all know if we've worked with vinyl, we know how that goes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and position my iron-on transfer onto the top part of our cookie bag, but I position it down a little bit low because we are going to turn this. It will have a cuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and press this on with my heat press at 350 for 30 seconds. If you do not have a heat press, that's okay. You can use an iron to do this. You just want to make sure you have your iron set at the hottest setting with no steam. All right, so now that we have this pressed on, I've let it cool a little bit, and I'm just going to slowly peel back that carrier paper. After finishing that step, I'm going to go ahead and add in the rest of our letters for the word north. And then to iron this off, I do make sure I cover this with parchment paper. I do that with both steps. And then I'm just going to use my little mini press because I don't really want to heat all of that vinyl back up. But so if you do this with a regular iron, just use the tip of your iron if this happens to you. Hopefully it won't, and that you'll just have everything in one piece. But if it does happen to you and you have to add something in, just use the tip of your iron because it won't hurt that vinyl to be heated up a little bit, but I just like to be cautious here. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and lay out all of our pieces. So if I forgot to say, so for the outer part of the cookie bag, you need 2 pieces, a front and a back, and for the lining, you're also going to need 2 pieces, which kind of makes sense, right? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew the front piece of our cookie bag to the lining piece on the top edge. So you want to make sure that you are sewing that across the very top edge, and so that when you open it up, it just makes one long piece. So this is what it should look like after we have sewn the 2 pieces together. And so we've sewn a lining piece together and an outer piece together. And then I did come in and press my seams down. So now we're going to lay them out so we can finish sewing, and you want to make sure that you have the lining pieces together and the outer cookie bag pieces together. Stack them on top of each other, right sides together, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pin all of our edges. So to sew this together, we're just going to sew down one long side, then we're going to come down the short side and go back up the long side, and you want to leave that top piece open. After sewing our cookie bag together, we've got the long strip. I do come in with my pinking shears and trim off all of the excess fabric because it just helps eliminate some of the bulk when we go to turn this. Once I've done that, we will go ahead and turn this right sides out. So at this point, we should just have one big long tube. And then I just flatten everything out, give it a good pressing if you need to, and now we can come in and close the top part of that lining. And I just pinched it together, took it to the sewing machine and closed all those pieces, and then we will kind of just open up that cookie bag and tuck that lining right to the inside, and then just kind of press it out so that everything lays nice and flat. And then we can go ahead and turn down our cuff, and then we'll move on to our next step. Now at this point, you could just fill this cookie bag with some real cookie dough ingredients, or you could just use it as a cute little decoration like I'm going to do. So I'm just going to stuff it with a little bit of stuffing just to make it look full, like it really has some cookie dough inside, or cookie dough ingredients, I should say. Okay, so I have gone ahead and cut out a cute little sugar cookie, if you want to call it that. And so I'm just going to give it a little bit of dry brushing on all of the edges with some antiquing wax, just to kind of make it look like a baked cookie. Then we will come in and tie a string around the cookie bag. And when I do this, I kind of tie a little bit of a knot, and then I tuck it sort of up underneath that cuff a little, so it just barely kind of peeks out. And then I kind of move my knot over to the side of the bag. And of course, we have to add some embellishments. So I'm going to string a little bit of jute through this bell, and then I'm going to add on our little snowman sugar cookie. And I did tie this in a little bow before I strung the sugar cookie on, and then I ended up coming back and redoing that because it just didn't lay right. So I string the bell on, then I'll string the sugar cookie on, and then tie it in a little bit of a bow here. And the bell does lay over the top of the snowman, but once I get it pinned to the bag, you can kind of fiddle with it to get it to lay right. So after I get this tied into a cute little bow, I'm going to just go ahead and hot glue that right onto our cookie bag. And to finish this off, I've put another little bell on this to kind of close our pouch together, and I just strung that bell on with a little tiny safety pin, or like it was a gourd pin I think I used here. And then this is it, y'all. What do you think of this? I think it just turned out darling, and I think this would make a really nice gift if you really did want to put some fresh cookie dough ingredients into it. For this project, we are going to make some really cute homespun pears. And I am actually using some homespun fabric from Hobby Lobby to do this. Well, some of them are Hobby Lobby, and then some of them I did get at Joann Fabrics. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out our pear pattern, and I will have this pattern available for y'all. You'll be able to find the link for this, for the download, in the description box. So I'm just going to cut our pear out, and then we can lay it on top of our fabric. I do pin it to the fabric, and then we will cut our pears out. And I'm going to make several of these, so I just cut out a whole bunch, but you do need to cut 2 pieces of fabric per pear. Now that we have all of our pear pieces cut out, we can take them to the sewing machine and get them all sewn together. And you do want to make sure that you have these right sides together. And then I just clipped them all so that they stay nice and aligned with one another. So here they are all clipped, and I will go ahead and take these to the sewing machine. And you do want to make sure that you leave a small opening at the bottom of your pear so that we can turn these and then stuff them after they've been sewn. And I am using an 1/8 inch seam allowance on these. Now that I have this one sewn together, we'll go ahead and flip it right sides out. And then I do take these all to the iron and press them so that they are kind of nice and flat. And if you need to, you can use like a sort of a blunt object to just kind of poke out and smooth out all of your seams. So here they are all sewn together, and I'm going to go ahead and stuff these. And I do stuff these fairly full because I kind of wanted these to be really firm and have a nice full look to them. To close up the bottom, I am going to just sort of tuck that in so that we don't have any raw edges showing. And then I'm going to thread my needle here, and I am just using some crochet thread to do this with a fairly large needle. And then I'm going to just weave this in and out, front to back, until I have that gap completely closed. And then I will pull the whole piece of thread through that, trim off any of my excess ends, and then I'm going to tie this into a really tight knot to give our pear that little tiny puckered part at the very bottom. You know how a real pear kind of has that little puckery part at the bottom? So that is how I'm doing my best here to recreate that realistic pear look. After I get the bottom all closed up, I do kind of just give it a little bit of a fluffing, and then we can move on to adding our stems to the top of our pears. And I'm just using some of these little craft sticks. They are a real stick, but I actually bought them. I got them at Hobby Lobby, and then they were kind of long, so I cut each one down to size, and then I'm just going to hot glue it on there and kind of smush it down a little bit so it gives it that little indent at the top. And then just like that, we have some really darling pears, y'all. I think these are so fun. For our very last project today, we are going to create a really cute mitten applique pillow. So you will need several different fabrics of choice. I am using some of this plaid for the top of my pillow, and then some of that faux fur for the backing of my pillow. Then you will need the pattern, which I will have for y'all as a free download, and some cotton batting. So I've gone ahead and cut our pieces out, and you only need one mitten, one top piece for the mitten. So you need to cut out 2 mittens, obviously, but you only need 1 piece per mitten, and then 1 piece of batting per mitten. And then we're just going to go ahead and lay these on top of each other. And then I will take these to the sewing machine and sew our patterned fabric to the cotton batting. And I just go all the way around the entire mitten to do this. You don't have to leave any openings on this. So I just sew the entire thing together. Okay, so here's what we've got so far. We've got our patterned fabric sewn to the cotton batting. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that same process with our second mitten, and then we are going to come in and do some quilting on these. So to do the quilting part, I just flip my mitten upside down so that the cotton batting is facing me, and then we will just go ahead and start drawing some diagonal lines on this. And I'm just using my sewing ruler to do this so that I can measure them properly and make sure that all my lines are nice and straight. And I place the lines 1 inch apart. after I get my first set of lines drawn onto this, I'm going to flip this around and now come back in and draw a second set of lines to create, let's see, I'm not sure how I want to explain this. To create diamonds, I guess you could say. So by the time this is done, all of your little squares should look very similar to this. And then we're going to go ahead and just take this to the sewing machine and sew over the tops with just a straight stitch over the tops of every single one of our lines so that we get that nice puffy quilted appearance to these. Okay, so this is what it looks like after I've got all the first set of lines sewn. So now I will come back in and sew the diagonal lines so that we kind of get this crisscrossy diamond quilted shape to our mittens. And then I do kind of come in and fray all of the edges just a little bit. All right, so now we can go ahead and place them on our pillow front, and I am going to just make sure that I get these as close to the center as I possibly can. I didn't really measure these, I kind of just eyeballed it. And then I'm pinning them in place, and we are going to take these back to the sewing machine and sew all of our mittens to the front piece of our pillow. So now we can go ahead and start sewing our pillow pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and clip my pieces together, but before I do that, I use some straight pins to mark where I'm going to leave my opening, because we do need an opening on this so that we can come back in and stuff our pillow later. Then I will take it to my sewing machine and go ahead and sew around all 3 edges, and then a partial part of that 4th edge, just making sure that we do leave an opening for us to flip it right sides out and stuff our pillow. After I get all the sewing done, I do come in with my pinking shears and trim off all of the excess fabric. Just be careful when you do this not to accidentally cut into any of your stitching. Then, as always, I do come in and just make sure that all of my seams have been properly sewn together. Now we can come in and flip this right sides out, and I just make sure I've got all my corners poked out and that everything is lying nice and flat. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start stuffing our pillow, and I don't stuff this pillow super full. I would say I kind of did a medium firmness on this with my stuffing, because I kind of wanted it to just have that really cozy feel to it. So I didn't stuff it too overly full. And then once we get our pillow all stuffed, we will come in and go ahead and close up that bottom opening. Well, in this case, it ended up being on the top because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. So I went ahead and closed up that opening on our pillow, and now we're going to move on to doing a little bit of embellishing. So I'm just going to string some buttons here, and I'm just kind of faux stringing them, well, because I don't like to leave my buttons. I like them to have that strong look so that they look like they're sewn on. So I just ran some string through this and then tied it into a knot. Then we're going to come in with some hot glue and glue these to our pillow. So I first, because we're going to add a string to our mittens as well. So I lay the little string down, and then I glue that button right on top of the string. Then I kind of just fiddle a little bit here with the placement of my string and the shape of my string. And once I get that just so, I kind of do come back in and hot glue my little strings down into place just so that they don't flop around and they kind of keep that fun, playful shape. And here we have the finished project. I do really like this pillow. I think it turned out so cute. And y'all, I think it would be fun to do this with some gingerbread or snowmen. You could just have a lot of fun creating different applique shapes for this. My favorite part, I think, on our pillow is the quilting on the mittens.
Alrighty, my dear friends, that is going to wrap up all of our projects for today. I had so much fun. I enjoyed working on all of these. I love how they all turned out. I think my favorite from today's projects is probably the stockings. I just think they are so fun and whimsical. I cannot wait to get them hung and start decorating for Christmas. It's coming soon, next week. So I'm really excited to decorate and share with y'all how I have styled all of our projects that we have been working on these last couple of weeks. So anyway, that's going to wrap up for today. I will see you all next week. It is Thanksgiving week, so how are y'all celebrating Thanksgiving? Share with me some of your Thanksgiving traditions, because I would love to hear how you celebrate and hear about some of your traditions. We have family coming, and a good friend of mine is here from Australia. She's visiting, so she gets to share Thanksgiving with us this year, and I'm really looking forward to that. Okay guys, I will see you all again next week. Until then, take care, and I will see you soon. I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe, enjoy your day, enjoy your time with friends and family. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.